off of.
I repeatedly use the example when I talk about taxes. That's my big example.
But so that's where we can agree on government waste. But I find it in the Department of Defense more than anywhere else, and that's not the one that gets cut. That's the one that's getting bumped up. And that's what bothers me about what's going on with this administration.
I agree. I don't like
that's
it.
not what. That's one of the things. But that is a major thing.
And the debt ceiling was raised like $3.5 trillion.
Which they said they weren't going to do.
That supposedly is trying to reduce waste. And, like, I was so amped up.
We're not live yet. God damn it. This is so good. Damn it. Brother, this is so good. It's all right. It's all right.
Keep rolling. We are actually live.
Okay.
We're live, by the way. Everybody's tuning in. I'm off camera a little bit. We have my man Cody in here today, and obviously Paul you've seen many times. Paul B. Balcom. Balcom B. Paul. Go try to find the mystery man.
That's the guy.
And then me, Sid Politic, off camera. Go find us on any platforms that you like engaging with people on socially. And we have Cody here, special guest style, to come and just, dig the Republican Party out of the fucking grave where we've been burying them. We've been burying them without the support, and I'm glad Cody came through. He's a brave man. He's coming through, and he's
in the Lions Den.
He's in the Lions Den. He's going to somewhat defend him, but he has his own points of view. So everybody hop in the comments and let us know. And Cody, please, plug yourself.
I just wanted to say I wouldn't necessarily fully abide by all the positions the Republican Party takes. I just want to make that clear at the jump. But I also wanted to say, before we get into it, that I appreciate you guys sharing the platform with me, allowing me to share my opinions and perspective on things. And, I think...
Party of free speech over here, brother.
Yes, sir. And I think we're going to definitely disagree on quite a bit, but I also think we're going to find common ground on a lot of stuff, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, that's awesome. And that's one of the reasons Paul kind of said something about, like, similar to, as far as, like, you're a reasonable person, you're willing to see both sides. And I think sometimes in this kind of discourse, political discourse, that's where we can miss each other, because there is a lot that we can agree on as common goals and where we want to see the country. And in reality, if we can all just agree that we are on that same team. Correct. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen, the first Trump administration where people were saying he's not their president and they didn't want to be in America. They wanted to leave the country, so on and so forth. That's a weak mindset as far as, like, when the going gets tough and things aren't going your way, to just want to...
I'm going down with this shit, boys.
Exactly. And trust me, and you may have felt the same way during the Biden administration or something, where... And there were conservatives I saw where they're basically like, this is a bullshit fucking country where you have... Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, did we have a puppet president? I mean, obviously we did, but, Actually, you know what? We can start off there. Let's get right into conspiracy land. I am curious.
Whoa.
Did you say, yeah, please.
I just want to say
real
quick.
Is it a conspiracy if it's real?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
Okay, true. But I was going to say, all that, though, listen, born in 93, so I can say this.
Okay.
Bush Sr., Clinton, I wasn't old enough to necessarily pay attention. My life was shattered on September 11th, 2001, okay? 8 years old.
I don't mean to laugh, but he took it right. We were having this conversation right before. This is behind the scenes conversation I want to show you guys.
Yeah, there was a lot brewing before this came out.
Sick segue. That he
not meant to do that one. Okay.
Yeah, that was wild, masterful.
But what I was trying to say is
you really want to talk about these Saudis.
Although I was eight, I'll never forget being in third grade, watching on the television.
Yeah.
It over and over and over, and being someone who started paying attention, not being able to pay too much attention, but listening to the TV, listening to the parents talk, listening to people talk. I noticed it when Obama ran and won. Everything started to really, really like fracture. Now again, I can't speak pre 9/11 because after we're all united, but once he ran, that's when it really started the whole. Hey, if he wins, I might leave this country. Hey, if he wins, that's not my president. And then 8 years of that led to the Democrats then doing it to Trump. And then everyone against Trump. And then once Biden won, I mean, shit, being here, fuck Joe the hoe. Fuck Joe and the hoe. Yeah. Now let's go, Brandon. Everything is not just, it's just not, I disagree. Yeah. It's fuck you. Yeah. Everything was in your face. Everything was aggressive. Yeah. You don't belong. You're an idiot. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, fuck, dude, there's trucks liberal hunters. And it's like, what the fuck? Yeah. So it's like, yes, all that is so loud. I'm very glad that we can come here, have a very respectful discourse with reasonable people, that we're all red-blooded patriots, okay? We all want the same thing for this country. We want this country to prosper. We want our families to be safe and our kids to have a great future, okay? we're just some different perspectives. I voted Kamala. I'm assuming Trump.
I did vote Trump.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And we have a
Jill Stein.
Jill Stein. So we have it all. So we have it all here. Okay, that's what I was leading to.
Yeah, we covered all of our bases.
We'll segue to 9/11.
We covered all of our bases.
Okay.
I do want to say I think it's important that you pointed out how political discourse has kind of always like the antagonism started a long time ago. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I guess I wouldn't say recently, but I guess in the timeline, it's rather recent that I've gotten into politics. But I would like to see that change, and
yes.
I don't know how to go about doing that. I think this is the best start.
Correct.
Is just doing this type of shit.
Don't you think, though, that politics, when people are actually engaged in them, it's always going to be something that is at least contentious. If it's not...
It's so visceral. And the issues are so real that I think it does elicit like these really strong emotions. Yeah. And for people, I'm not always perfect about managing my emotions, but for people that do have a hard time with it, when you're hearing something that really attacks your identity or the way you live your life, and you see someone on TV denigrating it or saying we want to change this, I mean, they're passionate issues, and so you're gonna get that, and I guess to your point, we have to accept some degree of that.
Well, and also I kind of want to dig into that a little bit more. Is there any point to where that's healthy, or even maybe not healthy, but necessary, as far as because you could even take that all the way up to civil unrest, what you're talking about. Is there ever a point where that's justifiable?
I don't think it's the best way to get your ideas across. If your goal is to change people's minds, the more antagonistic and hyperbolic and aggressive you are in sharing your ideas, I think the less likely you're going to be.
I'm sorry for being hyperbolic.
No, well,
I'm sorry. Okay?
I think we all do it on occasion, just because of the environment we operate in. I mean, the media the media headlines are the most hyperbolic. Fucking. It's all bullshit.
So I want to ask about a political issue. I was leading to something. I'll pass it to you, I promise, Paul, because I know you have something probably interesting you want to say. Because we're talking about real issues, and I think something that's kind of, to some of us, might be trivial is tax. But if you're somebody that you feel, okay, and this is maybe what I want to appeal to.
We're going to take out the box and feel
that. Not trivial.
Well,
to me.
Some people feel as if taxation's theft.
That I absolutely
perfect.
So wholehearted.
So if that's the case, and I mean, if a lot of people get on the same page and feel strongly that they're being stolen from, then I mean, at what point? What's an appropriate level to reach to protect your own property, for example, or whatever it's being stolen? In this case, taxation. It's the money.
Like you're asking what we can do.
What level's appropriate? Like, because we're saying
how far should we go
to it?
Yeah.
If
you feel like it's theft.
I mean, I don't think violence is the answer. Mm-hmm. I don't think destroying public or private property is the answer. I mean, if we really care about it, is to be as loud as possible. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go out and protest, I respect people's ability to protest. Sure. I respect people that are willing to take the time and go stand out on a street corner and hold the signs. I'll admit, sometimes as I'm driving past, I'll talk a little bit of shit. I'm not perfect. But at the end of the day, like, I regret that you take I respect that you take your views seriously enough to at least do that.
Fair.
Do I think it's a American Revolution 2.0 time? I don't know if I'd go that far. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's something that needs to change. I think it's the most...
What if Kamala got elected, for example? Would you feel more, I don't want to say radicalized, but maybe more open to a... I don't want to say because I mean, none of us are here. I'm not trying to get you trapped and be like, fucking condone violence.
No, you're
condone violence, Cody.
So,
but it's like, my question is like, for example, if we both feel like, say, Joe Biden was a fucking, empty corpse of a president. It was basically being puppeted. All of his decisions were being puppeted by some shadow government. At what point is it like a reasonable thing to say, there has to be some action taken because people that are in power, like, for example, the reason I asked that is if Kamala got elected, you know, I don't know where you exactly stand on Trump, but it would feel like that was more of the status quo continuing to grip the power.
Yeah.
You know?
He wasn't my first choice. Sorry, go on.
No, well, because I just don't want to forget, as far as that, I think what plays into that, which we didn't get since Trump won, was the whole it's rigged thing. I think that the social unrest got really loud because you have, honestly, I mean, the polls have come out of Republicans a decent majority, like 30-something%. Yeah. Or I think it was in between 20 to 30% believed, like fully believed, that the election was stolen.
Yeah.
And it's like, with the evidence being just a few thousand votes, like a few 10,000s of votes that were actually fraudulent, which happens through every election. And it's like, with this election, when Trump won, there was the little, like, where the left were like, hey, listen, it's kind of weird how Elon spent so much money, so much time in Pennsylvania working on AI systems, but we're not going to go to this whole, like, he stole the election.
Well, so one thing I would say, too, is along, you mentioned votes. I think another big issue people took, which I'm not saying this constitutes evidence. I haven't seen evidence that would convince me that the election was stolen. But a lot of something that people are pointing to is that Biden received the most votes of, like, any president in the history of our country by, like, 20 million, which is or some substantial number. Like, it was not a small margin where it was like, okay, you could write that off. And I mean, I guess there wasn't a great explanation for why that was the case, and that leads to all this, you know, conspiracy theories.
But what if the explanation of that many people felt so, like, just so hell-bent on not allowing Trump to have that second term.
And that could have been the case.
That you got those votes, because really what happened was, it wasn't that 10 million less people voted in this election. 10 million less people voted for Kamala. But a lot more people, millions of more people voted for their party.
Right.
So that vote that the Democrats won, and there was really this whole debate between, should we go with the corporate Democrat and Biden just because he's going to pull the middle vote?
Right.
Or do we go with someone like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, who's really what this party wants to be, which is progressive, but that might scare away that middle vote who's just going to go back to Trump.
Right.
So when Biden I won't say he flopped, because honestly, my personal opinion of Biden's presidency was it was just a blah presidency. He got it. I think the act, I forget the not Fair Chips Act, but the one the Rebuild Act, right? When to rebuild the economy, I think it was really working.
Build Back Better.
Yeah, Build Back Better Act. I think that there was a lot that was going really well with that. But there was a lot better he could have done. And we saw what was happening with his mental state. And the way that the Democrats handled that, which I feel like they were handcuffed, which we can get into later, kind of left it to where people like James said, I'm not with that party right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to send a message. Trump didn't gain more than what, like 1.5 million votes, I think.
Yeah, I'm not 100%
so
sure.
So I think it was like 73 something and then 75 million were the two numbers that he got. So it's like, I just think that whole empowerment movement went away with this election.
Yeah, and I think that's a completely plausible.
But it's a fair. I get
it is
it.
fair.
And this is where I think I've talked to my grandfather about this. And my grandfather is far more left than. I mean, he's not reasonable at times. I love him to death, but sometimes he just isn't going to listen. Like Obama was too kumbaya. And it's like, well, you have to work both sides. Like, it's the democracy.
Yep.
So, which is my issue, again, an issue now. But I think that the issue is, fuck, I forgot exactly where I was going with that because, you know. But anyways, my grandfather is just way too liberal with it, and he's tired of all this corporate. And it's like we have to kind of get in the middle. I think we have to talk to both sides.
Before we get too far, real quick, I just want to say, Chris tuned in here. Shout out to you, man. This is, by the way, the live kind of angle is
Chris
because this is going to be a part of a bigger podcast. That's going to be
remind me what I was
stuff
talking
like
about.
that after the fact. Yeah, but I do want to just say, in case you guys that think it had anything to do with Room 40? Question mark.
What's
Get
Room 40?
Get him.
What's Room 40?
Oh, you're about to get hit with it.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get burned.
Give him a second.
What's Room 40?
Let's see.
But I just feel like
yeah, go ahead. You're good. I'll tell you if he says anything
I
else.
would say another big thing is trust in all of our institutions is at an all-time low. and that includes the presidential election. We're losing trust in the media for good reason. The media blatantly lies, and because of the internet and the way, I mean, this type of scene, it can just be called out immediately, like this is bullshit.
Yeah.
So people are losing trust in all of the experts and all of the leaders because they are not trustworthy.
But
I think that's a big part of it, and it's gonna lead. And I'm not saying that's an excuse for conspiratorial thinking, but I mean, it's certainly going to help foster it when you don't trust your...
No, 100%, but I feel like some of that mistrust is ill-guided. And again, like, I
in
have
regards
this,
to which entity specifically?
I feel I've had this issue with freedom of speech. It is so important to have freedom of speech.
Exactly, yep.
But it is so fucking dangerous to have freedom of speech. It is so dangerous to have freedom of press, because what's been going on, you can have, and this is what's bringing me back. So you can have so much shit going on, okay, but none of us get the same information. There's majority of what happens, we are shown two different sides. You're shown one side of the meeting with the South African president. Yeah. I'm shown the other part of that meeting with the South African president. I see Trump stumbling over words every day and messing up. You never see that same shit.
No, I see that.
But I'm hyperbolic.
No, right? But I get your point. I get your point that there's two,
and it's like, and that's always been an
there's
issue.
Even more than two. It's basically all of us.
It's all of us,
our own
and then
curated.
You have a PBD.
Filter.
Yeah, and where's the distinction between someone's perspective and lies?
Exactly. Fox News, when we were younger, their moniker, like their slogan was "Our version of the truth." That always blew my mind. Okay, but someone like PBD, he'll have his podcast and he'll bring someone like me on.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to get my point across, because it's just going to be his panel barking over top of you and then just hitting you with.
I disagree with that. I've seen liberals go on there and tear them up. In my opinion,
there have been some, but you have to be good. Like you have to be able to sit.
Yeah, that's the case with any formidable person.
It's like Piers Morgan stuff too. Like you have to go into something like that knowing it's going to be more combative than if you're hanging out with Theo Vaughn or like like it's going to be PBD. It's going to be more combative.
When someone fact
Piers
checks
Morgan, like you're going to hear yelling and screaming within 2 minutes.
He wants to get clips.
100%.
Yeah. Trying to get clips.
But when someone fact checks an Alex Jones,
yeah,
what's going to happen is you're going to have someone like me who goes, okay, well that was research done, and then you have other people who go, well, no.
Can I reel this back into your original point though? Because your first statement got my mind going immediately, where you said you love free speech, you think it's important, but it's so dangerous. I want to kind of challenge that, because there's the other end of that spectrum, and I would isn't that also dangerous? Like no free speech or
100%
tethered free speech, isn't that also dangerous? So I mean,
you have to have it.
We have to make a value judgment here. As far as like what do we value as a country, and there's going to be setbacks to any decision we make. If we decide that we want some kind of authoritarian police state where nobody is allowed to voice their own opinion, you can have that, and then some things are going to be alleviated. Some culture. Some cultural issues.
We have so many things we can debate.
Well, I mean, but honestly, like in that example, like if you shut down the country, like I mean, I'm thinking more like North Korea, obviously, and it's like, does North Korea have no crime? I don't know. I mean, they would purport that it's extremely safe, but it's like also, are they even like what's the incentive to be clear with whatever crime there may be?
Well, crime is just what the government says is crime.
Yeah.
So when you're, I mean that is what it is. They dictate what is criminal.
Society. I think society.
In a society like North Korea,
might as well
you think the North Korean
society off and talk about immigration.
Okay. Two different things. Okay.
Well, you brought up North Korea.
In America. Okay.
But I'm saying
in North Korea is different.
That example, North Korea is deciding what is criminal.
Yes.
So they can manufacture
on the spot
whatever.
At times,
they can manufacture whatever. To
clarify,
I agree with you, but I'm even talking about like from a transparency outside of the state.
Exactly.
Like why
we don't know what's going on.
We wouldn't know. So why would they have there's no incentive to tell the Western world like, look, we fucking cut people's dicks off if they say anything about the supreme leader, and everybody has to fucking fake cry when anybody fucking dies. That's a government official, and also he doesn't shit ever or whatever. He beat fucking Dennis Rodman in the basketball game. All this stupid shit. We all have to fucking agree with that and never think about it critically.
Terrence Trump has IQ 180.
But
that's what I heard.
But we still have carjackings. If there's anybody that even has cars, we still have people that
runs a 4-4.
Whatever. So it's like, yeah. But either way,
I just want to clarify on freedom of speech.
Please. Yeah.
I'm for it.
Sure.
I think it's very important and it's safe. It's just dangerous just to why we have so much disdain amongst each other.
I think we can be open about that.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we know it's necessary, but you can just because something is overall a positive, it doesn't mean it doesn't come
with a negative. Correct.
Associated. And
to the North Korea thing, what's funny is I was literally on a phone call today with the guy I work with, and I was like, something of Kim Jong Un was on like the Google like suggested stories, and I was like, what if I'm like what if I said, do you think that like Kim Jong Un's actually the good guy and we're all the bad guys?
Dude, it's all about perspective.
I'm like, you know, the whole world is against one guy. He's like, yeah, okay. I was like, oh, you see how bizarre that fucking sounds? Mm-hmm. And then that would lead me to obviously another guy who mimics some things. But going on here,
what the fuck are you talking about, Paul? You're speaking very cryptic for the audience. You're talking about Putin?
Putin's one of them.
He's talking about Trump.
Oh man!
I was picking up
what
on
do
your
you mean?
How'd
you even make that connection, though? How'd you make that connection?
I wasn't able to do it. That's my point.
So can you clarify this now? Is he Kim Jong Un or is he Hitler?
No,
I'm not.
Okay, all right. So the
I need
Hitler
you to
thing. No, we can get to this
because he only can be one.
No.
Right?
Okay, no one's calling him Hitler.
He's an amalgamation.
We're not killing him Hitler or calling him Hitler.
He's a Nazi though.
Okay, his Secretary of Defense is a Nazi.
Ooh.
Have we not shown? I've shown you that picture of Pete Hegseth.
Of what?
Of his of the tattoo on his chest.
It's a Nazi tattoo.
It's the Aryan cross right on his fucking chest.
Aryan cross.
Can you bring it up on your phone? I mean, on the tablet. Are we able to?
I can separately, but I can't actually share it. I was trying to share with the Room 40 thing, which we never got into. I don't know.
Would you like me to spill the beans on what that is?
I pulled up a historical British. Is that
nope.
not? Okay, so it's
he was gonna embarrass you on your own pod and say, "Do you have Room 40's nuts?"
Damn it!
I love it, Chris. You're the best.
Thank you for that, Chris.
And I always
stole your thunder, but
I'll always love you.
Well, he spared me anyways. He ended up just coming through and said, "Love y'all."
I love you, brother.
We love you too.
But no, while we're doing that,
yes. No, but what did you just ask me to look up?
The Pete Hegseth
cross.
No, Pete Hegseth tattoo. That's all you gotta do.
They argue it's a Christian thing.
Brother,
I don't know.
Here, let's see what it is first. We'll do Pete
I'm not religious, so I don't know.
But I remember now about the experts. We've gotten to a place to where we act as if experts have no merit, as if their lifelong duty to research to their craft makes them a liar and insufficient.
It doesn't make them a liar, but it doesn't make what they say the truth. Also, they have discredited themselves. Okay, that looks like a cross, but I don't know the implication of it.
Okay, so look up the
like
four
sick cross, bro.
Four iron crosses. An iron cross has been associated with the Aryan Brotherhood.
Okay, so just so you know, I don't know when he had the tattoo.
Is this so?
But if you're active duty,
bad to be a fucking
if you're active duty,
Aryan,
which he was at some point, you would get booted out for that.
Okay, so he got it after. So he's just
if he got it after. I don't know when he got it.
But yeah, it's like when that guy's running your Department of Defense. I don't know the Stephen Miller, all these white nationalists, these uber religious people. Yeah, man, there's some shit to it. The white nationalism is real, and that's something that we talked about before. Of do you think that there's a possibility that white nationalism is real?
Of course, that's real.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's made up. I don't think it's. I don't think it's pervasive in our culture.
Okay.
So,
I don't think there's any evidence of that.
But so what do you think about like the people showing up in Memphis, Tennessee, literally geared up, walking with Nazi flag with a Nazi flag, chanting?
That's the super shitty part about free speech.
Right, but
I have to look at shit that I don't like.
Isn't that prevalent?
I think those people are bad.
But those people,
I think people that wave Nazi flags
and we
are
agree
despicable.
there. Okay, so where we disagree,
right? Yeah, really fringe opinion on that.
It's such a fucking brave soldier.
Yeah, I mean,
but those
is that
people
indicative of where the country's at?
No, but I will say,
would you paint Okay, and people were doing the same thing with Black Lives Matter when they torched, what was it, Minneapolis? Minneapolis. Do you think it would be fair for Republicans or conservatives to make the argument that that's reflective of the entire movement?
But they did, though. They did.
But now you're doing it, and you're claiming it's okay.
No, what I'm saying is those people exist.
They do.
Those people are for one party and for one politician.
So are people that fall into the Black Lives Matter movement.
100%. Which again, I do want to say that the movement and the organization two different things.
You saved us on that.
Okay.
So
I'd agree with the statement.
Yeah, but
Black Lives Matter, the organization, you said, is different.
So someone like me, I was for the statement, the movement of let's stop the statistically unprecedented number of.
No, that's not true.
But it is though. But
the statistics actually point in the opposite direction on that.
Yeah, more white people than black people. But it is what it is. Okay?
Well, that's true. But
we got to stay on one topic.
Yeah, it's a little bit of another interesting topic. I mean, definitely interesting. Yeah,
I feel you. I'm not going to dismiss it, but I feel you.
Yeah.
But when you have a book like Project 2025 that was written and funded by the Heritage Foundation and every major Republican donor, when the author of that book is Stephen Miller, and they are open white nationalists, that being your administration, that being the person who's handing Donald Trump every piece of paper where he goes, what am I signing? Oh, yeah, this is great, right? And it does this big fucking drawn out fucking...
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
It's easy for someone like me to sit there and go, it seems as if he's being peddled shit, not knowing what he's signing because these are the people who funded his campaign.
That's any president ever.
But
no president knows anything. Which is why everyone around them is hired to advise them.
People are hired around them, yes, to help them.
They don't know anything.
Navigate. I don't think that's
presidents are not
true.
Experts in anything. They're experts at talking in front of a camera.
They're
experts at producing an image.
Barack Obama was a professor of constitutional law. He's an expert on the Constitution.
Okay,
he's an expert on law.
Okay, so if he was a lawyer, then fine. I'll retract that and say he was a lawyer, but he's not an expert.
He's not an economist.
Right, he's not an economist.
So you hire good people.
That's my point. So every
the
president
job is so expansive.
Exactly. Every president, every position of
agree.
Authority is relying on their advisors
100%
to feed them.
Yes. But you should at least know what the fuck you're signing. You should at least be briefed.
I agree.
You have briefings. You have daily briefings.
Trust but verify.
This is your job.
Trust but verify. I agree.
We also, I think with our president, what we would like to believe is that they have good judgment. Like some of the his legendary presidents, that's what we remember about them, is in the moments of crisis or whatever, they had good judgment in the moment, and they were willing to stand up for what was right. I mean, for all the flaws, because we're talking about like Trump and flaws, so we can criticize from the other side of the aisle a guy for us, JFK, a ton of personal character flaws. Nobody would necessarily be like, this is a perfect fucking man or perfect husband.
Cheat on his wife.
All kinds of crazy shit with JFK. I mean, family tied to the mob, all that shit can be true, but
let's not step over Vietnam in regards to JFK.
Sure. But I mean, there's
that's a not good one.
But there's literally, I mean, the government was trying to, and I'm sure they did because I'm cynical when it comes to the government. But it's like we're trying to perform ops on, like, and Americans were going to die. I don't know. I got to look up the exact operation name or whatever. But it got all the way to the point of being put on JFK's desk. And Americans were going to die so they could end up invading Cuba or some shit. And he, at that point, was like, absolutely fucking not. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like, for all the fuck shit that we get into, and before the camera came on, we were talking about blood money and all that, and I didn't want to get into it, and you kind of, just barely kind of grazed on it, but it's like, we have to look at our money. It has a lot of fucking blood on it. So it's like,
brother, we started this country off with some blood money.
For all the things that I wouldn't necessarily full on condone as a moral action, I would say in that position, the one thing that we ask mainly is that the judgment is on point. And I think that's one thing that I don't trust Trump's judgment personally. That's why I wouldn't have, even though I was not going to vote for Joe Biden or for Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. Just
that administration,
but that administration. I wasn't going to vote in that direction. I couldn't vote for Trump in my perspective because I didn't trust him, even though I knew ultimately he may end up still getting voted based off the fraction on the liberal side of things. But you guys go ahead.
So what I was alluding to was with all that, and you know that the Heritage Foundation and them are the like far like Christian right, and a lot of that is you see the KKK and a lot of these fucked up movements are hidden behind religious guild or guide, right? I mean, shit, they call themselves the White Knights of Christ for the KKK. So you know all this to be true. Not one part of you would say that it's a possibility that this administration has white nationalists in it and they have a motive to what the whole movement has been is secure the sanctity of the white race in this country. So I worked with a guy, I'm not going to say names, with the prison, Aryan tattoos. That's how I know about that. Iron Cross, Aryan tattoos.
It was the cross of Jerusalem. I had to get back off there because it blacked out our screen.
So the cross of Jerusalem is,
but it was tied. It was tied
a different
to a
claim
white
than an
nationalist
Aryan
group.
cross.
But when I read, it is a different claim. But I read a little bit more of it. It did say that it was tied to a white nationalist group. But I think both things could still be true. Like people like. A great example, obviously, is the swastika. Like, I mean, people take on it, or what you were just saying with the KKK. People take on imagery and iconography and all this from other like groups,
other sources,
and then they say, "Hey, this is our shit now." And also the ideology, and it may tie into their ideology. I mean, it may be a white nationalist group that is also, to your point, religious in some way, have some Christian quote unquote values, but I think I'm probably more. I wonder where you're at, but with what your claim is, I just take issue with it. Like, are there people that believe in white nationalism? Well, that's a really hard thing to say definitively. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could say broadly, and I could agree with you, kind of like, is there maybe people that lean in that direction? Probably, but then I would agree with Cody that there's always people, like, in some fucking, like, in Joe Biden's cabinet, do you think there was communists? Well, probably. You know what I mean? Like, but does that mean that Joe Biden's administration was communist?
No.
Well, no, of course not. I wouldn't say. Now, when you have a president that goes on autopilot and is just signing, using auto pen, that's a problem, because then their cabinet might end up representing the actual policies more than the president does.
That's a great point.
But then you need the president, and I hope we can trust Trump in this way, even though I don't think the track record says that, but I hope that we can trust that in some shit that just is completely unacceptable, like, for example, Medicare or some shit like that being wiped out. Yeah, I would hope that's going to be a red line for him. And he's going to say, well, no, we're not going to go that far with this. And he has so far.
Yeah.
But,
no, you're fine. You're fine.
I know you're thinking.
So, but what I was gonna say is, so after seeing the red, she had the same cross, but it was red on the back of his neck, and I saw it, and I said, "Hey, man, we got to talk. I got to hear your story because my siblings and all that." So I was like, "Hey, just so you know, like, I'm not cool with certain things." So he told me a story, and the story is very. He's a military vet. Got caught up in some shit when he came back. Had to go to prison because of his training. Had to go maximum security. So he got ganged up. Had to go with the Aryan Brotherhood. And he's an Odinist.
Did he go in California?
No, Florida.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So, but he's an Odinist, and what his explanation to me was, I'm not racist.
Yeah.
But if you look at the statistics in this country, the white race is going to become the minority, and that's a problem. We need to save the sanctity of the white race. And dude, there are factions in Inglewood. There are factions here. I mean, you can look.
That's not where I thought you were going to go with that.
But
he kind of went into prison and started buying into it. He's like, I'm not a racist, but come on, they kind of had good points.
I didn't know we were going here.
So, but
I thought you were going to say did it for protection and then got out. And he's like, yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if that's the belief of these people, then and then you have someone like Stephen Miller, and you look at the Project 2025 and what it was all laying out. It's easy for people on my side to kind of connect those dots and say, hey, listen, man, you have a lot of these people around you. A lot of these people are your closest advisors. A lot of these people are the people that you're listening to. Elon Musk, his family were apartheids in South Africa. You know what they did with black people in South Africa at that time. So it's like when you look at all that, it's easy for me to say, hey, listen, man, there might be this white nationalist movement in there.
It doesn't mean they did anything to black people in Africa. Apartheid was just a separation.
Taking the land.
Which I'm not saying it's good.
They took the land. They took a lot.
Apartheid is separation. So, I mean, maybe Elon did do bad things to black people.
It was his family. It was his dad was their apartheid.
I think
that's somehow an indication.
Informs his upbringing. It's not like he literally did it, but informs his upbringing. But even then, to be honest with you, I would challenge you on that, and I would say, like, what the fuck is this, like, purity test that we're putting people through to where they can't, like, have some kind of, like, ideologies that might inform, like, because it's like where you draw that line becomes very weird.
We're also very hypocritical about which ideologies we allow.
Sure.
And when the, like, directly opposing ideology is pushed, we don't like it.
Well, hold on.
I think where we're going with this, we're obviously getting into a conversation about racial collectivism and tribalism, which I think is just bad in general for every race.
Fair.
I think if white people...
You're so brave.
Yeah.
But that's because I agree with you.
No, but if you say, like... But if you suggest that there's racism against whites, you get laughed off.
No, there definitely is, but
it's not just I guess teaming up, for lack of a better word, or aligning with people based on race isn't good. But we celebrate it when it's certain groups.
I want to get right back because I have some pushback, but I just don't want to leave Chris hanging here. He said, please tell me Biden knew what he was signing. So that's because I was saying, like, auto pen with Trump. But I mean, honestly, I would hold that criticism to Biden and Trump, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. If that's your comparison, then...
Yeah, I would say, with Biden, he needed to get the fuck out. He was, like I said, honestly, a puppet president. I think when you see that so clearly, like, you just have to... I'm not trying to say you're ignorant, but I'm just saying, like, you kind of have to, like, suspend disbelief a little bit. So I'm not doing it with my politics. I do that with fucking Marvel movies. I'm not doing that with politics. It's like to believe that, like, this person's actually making decisions on their own and they're in control in any way. Like I said, in a lot of ways, the president should be that last line of defense to where something is going to be then enacted on the people. Like,
well, they're the decision maker.
But who they put in positions matter.
So my point is to agree with Chris here, as far as, like, with Biden, that was the same exact issue, and why the people that were okay with turning their heads or even worse, when you say turn their heads, you kind of allow them a little bit of, like, you're not really, you're not holding them accountable, and you're not really talking about how complicit people must have been in the cover-up of what was going on. So the fact that people were allowed to have that, like, how much further does that kind of go? Okay. If you run that idea out all the way to its end, where does that go? Well, I mean, go ahead.
Like Chris and I mean, we've actually talked about it on Facebook because he mentioned stuff like that. At what point, though, does national security matter in regards to...
Isn't that a threat to national security?
No, 100%. So 100%, but you got to hear the other side of that.
Yeah, please.
So if you show that, hey, listen, man, this guy's losing his fucking mind. Mm-hmm. To allies, that's dangerous. You're showing allies that, hey, listen, the guy that's leading your big brother, your leader, is kind of not all in it, okay? It then shows a weakness to your enemies. It shows that, hey, our leader is fucking senile.
Can I just push back, and I want to give it right back to you? I want to give it right back to you because I want to respond to what you're saying. Yeah. I totally agree with what you're saying, actually. I think it makes total sense, but it falls apart when you consider they were going to have him run for another 4 fucking years. So like, to say, hey, we got to let him run it out, like, fucking, you have to have Nancy Reagan come out and talk for Ronald Reagan. We've done this before, actually.
Correct.
But it's like to say we're going to have him run for another 4 years. Well, then, like I said, then I think it's a cover-up. I think it's a situation where there's people that are in power behind the scenes that don't want to give that up.
So I think where people like Cody and Chris were right, and where someone like me was sitting there, I was trying to defend it because obviously you have the other half that you have to oppose. So when you saw Kamala starting to go to everything, it was they're sending Kamala out because Joe can't, and it's like, all right, we saw snippets of him stumbling over words, but he's a known stutterer. So okay, all right. That doesn't mean he's mentally slow. He's just verbally all right. Him falling off a bike. That's an old man.
I think it's different, though, man.
But I'm saying, but this is where that goes back to that whole free speech thing at the beginning, where it's showing we weren't seeing all the things that you were seeing.
Yeah.
So then part of it can be construed just like what we see of Trump and say
you're seeing a fabricated.
Yeah, well, that's fabricated. That's fabricated. So we're waiting for our leaders to come out and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. I think what happened with going into the election, again, this is me speculating, but me trying to put reason to it. he's the incumbent, and we've had this debate before. You can't just go to the incumbent and say, hey, you're not fucking running. Because then what would happen is those who oppose you would then use that as, well, the Democratic Party is controlled by whom? And then they're pulling the strings.
Nobody thinks you think that the Democratic Party is ran by the president?
No, but obviously you're saying like the country.
All
like
of
you're
this
saying
is evidence
choice.
that politicians do not have America's best interest in mind.
See,
at the end of
I
the
think
day.
that's a cop-out because I'm telling you, man, there are a lot of people
It's
who
blatant
really
examples.
give a fuck.
They
there are
care
a lot
about
of
their job
politicians. I think
above
there are a
anything
lot
else.
of politicians who really give a fuck. Bernie Sanders is one who has always really given a fuck, and that's fair.
Minority.
Well, then
That's fair.
we're in agreement.
Yeah.
You got both your statements could even be true.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
So I think Cody's probably correct. There's a lot of people that had interest in the cabinet that didn't want to give up that after 4 years. And then also, I don't think that Joe Biden's blameless in this. Another thing to kind of like push back against your timeline of things, which I agree with your timeline of things, but it kind of becomes irrelevant when we had the debate. He fucking looked like a confused old man on the fucking debate stage. And like, I don't think Trump is like some incredible
he didn't look good
debater.
either. He didn't look good either.
Yeah.
He didn't win. Biden just lost.
He just
but
fucking, he was like
that's
shitting
what
himself on
bothers
stage.
me, though.
Well, no, but hold on. Just
we'll go
because
back.
then after that, we have him go on CNN and he's saying, only God could tell me that Jesus Christ himself tell me that.
Well, Obama did come and
get
tell
the
him.
fuck- Yeah,
Okay.
I guess. And, look,
Okay.
hey, Black Jesus
Okay,
came down. But,
okay, Obama came, all right? God
but no,
gave it to him.
He made the hard choice.
Well, then the thing is that that option was always there to begin with then. And like people that were the leaders, and we're not talking about the leaders in the sense like who's the minority leader or anything like that. We're talking about the true leaders. Like when you look at history, the true leaders, somebody needed to step up in that moment. Like that was obvious.
I mean, did it.
Like,
And there was cowardice, and and I've said this. It's a stain on the Democratic Party
over and over again.
and
Yeah.
they have to overcome that stain. And it's like, but to push back a little earlier about tribalisms and all that, about me with white nationalism with Trump, and we can't look at grouping people. When people thought Obama was Muslim, and still do, it was a problem. We'll never have a Muslim president.
wrong.
We'll never have a Muslim president. It's hard enough to even say that Pete Buttigieg has a fair shot because he's gay. Okay.
What point? Okay, I'm listening. I'm just trying to understand.
So
where
what
you're
I'm
going
saying
with this.
is like that's what we do as people. We always do that. So I get where you can say it's wrong with the white nationalist part, like bringing it back.
Gotcha.
And it's just that when we're looking at certain things, I think it does matter. I think who you're surrounding yourself with. When you look at who our Department of Education head is, she has no. McMahon has no fucking history in education. There's all these positions where it's like they have no history. You know they're put in there to do one thing, and that's to destroy it. So that way we can do what? We can privatize. We can do it because we raise the debt ceiling. So if it was in order to, hey, we're going to come in here, we're going to take all this down, so that way we save the money for you guys. That didn't happen.
No, I agree.
And where are the people? Where are the loyalists now saying, hey, whoa, that's not what I wanted.
Cutting spending.
But we said that was going to happen. We like when Kamala and Trump were on the debate stage, and Kamala laid out this extensive tax plan, this extensive budget plan, this way to say, hey, we're going to attack inflation by doing this. All these things, she laid it out. And then we asked Trump, what about you? And he said, I have the concept of a plan. That should have been a, bro, you're not taking this shit as seriously as we need you to. But it became such a tribalistic thing of this is my side and fuck you if you're not. Yeah, and this is my side and fuck you if you're not.
I mean,
both sides. And we have to break that shit.
I agree. I mean, I've had that gripe with politics since I got interested in learning about it. Like I always compare it to sports. Like it's like this is your sports team and you're just loyal to them no matter what the fuck happens. They lose every game in a season. Right. They're still your fucking team. Every other team sucks. Like, and that's how it is. And you wear your jersey and you rep your jersey and I mean,
bro, and it's blue no matter who.
Yeah.
See, but you look here, bro. We have a local community who hates big government, a local community who hates overdevelopment, but yet you voted in developers because they ran as Republicans. You didn't give a fuck about who they were, what their background is, anything about it.
That's a
and then now,
the dangerous game with politics.
And they have been just every 2 years revoted. Well, our county's on 3-year things, but they're voted in, and it's like, bro, can we stop? And right now, in 2025, there should be enough out there to where we can go ahead and stop that bullshit and really get down to what matters. And I've always been a party person, and I think it really
Are you
breaks.
talking about the white nationalists still? Because that's where I was trying to.
No, I'm talking about in general.
Steer us back.
Yeah, well, no,
where do you want us?
Well, I was curious. Well, I was curious actually about
Smoke
the white
a little
nationalist
and I'm off.
conversation because I don't feel like you ever really.
What do you want me to say?
tangled with that.
There's
Well, I mean,
white nationalists in this country, and I think they're in our government.
Yeah, we agree. Well, but we agreed to that. That's what I'm saying. Your initial claim. I'm kind of curious about your claims. I feel like you're making a very strong claim.
Oh, because we
You're
had
saying, you were saying initially. I don't know if we've regressed to there's people in the administration, but you said the administration was white nationalist. I think that's like quite a claim.
there was a reason why we had like a lull, so I was trying to fill, and it was a conversation we had previously where I didn't want to break it down on Facebook. Like, do you believe in this?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, do you believe? So I wanted just to like, hey, like, I just want to see if you are open to thinking that there are white nationalists in this administration, and that there is an active movement to make this country a religious, not only like a more of a religious country, which is unconstitutional, and then a more white country.
Well,
which I know is a hard claim. Like that's
no. Well, and there's kind of like something interesting if we want to take it specifically off of the Trump white nationalist thing, because I'm not sure if you're all the way there with your claim. I don't know.
He's white nationalist. His father's claim.
Well,
I mean, you can look at his history of being sued by minority people. Yeah. That hey, this man has something. But
okay, well, I mean, you can be prejudiced without being a white
I
nationalist.
think he's also won civil rights awards as well. So I guess it depends on which.
Well, I mean, you could be.
Someone on the other side would argue you're.
That's what I'm saying.
It's. I don't know.
That's why. That's kind of where I'm at.
But I like that more than the no.
Yeah,
because that's what I've been getting is no.
But yours is they are, and that's why I'm taking.
That is my opinion. I'm sorry,
but you need to provide a little bit more than just like, oh well,
because
his dad was this and like. He said this 10 years ago.
The tattoo on the one guy's chest. I mean, it could be tied to that, but he could also just be religious, and that could be some shit you think is cool.
Donald Trump he wouldn't even put his hand on the Bible.
Okay. It's probably also not religious. Who the fuck knows? But
it's just the fact that you put these people in positions that you know have a history of racism within all their lawsuits and shit that aren't qualified for their positions. You listen to the rhetoric by Stephen Miller, by the guy, I forget his name, the new border czar or whatever.
Tom Homan.
That rhetoric is pretty.
What rhetoric? The immigration rhetoric?
By Tom Herman. He's very edgy with the racist, like pushing the line of racism without being just blatantly racist.
I think we like to use labels like racist and sexist and bigot and whatever to make it easy to just not have to contend with anyone saying something we don't like.
See,
let's contend with what he's saying. What are his claims? His claims are that we've had record illegal immigration. What? Okay. I heard numbers. I don't know if these are true. Between 20 and 30 million.
Yeah.
Which is just egregious. And it's unacceptable. So, regardless of how you feel about immigration in general, that should be a point that we can all agree on that isn't acceptable. To incentivize and allow 20 million people to come in here illegally.
So, okay. All right, so let's break down the nuance of this illegally. What are they doing to enter here illegally? What is the 21 million people doing?
Crossing our border is illegal.
Yeah.
No, okay, but that is the process of seeking asylum, you know?
Okay, but 21 million people.
I'm not saying all 21 million are.
Okay.
But we have to look at percentages here.
Okay.
I don't know the percentages, but let's just break down in just our heads that a decent portion are coming across illegally, getting detained, seeking asylum because that was the legal process.
What does
allowed
it take
to
seek asylum?
I've never sought asylum, but
you could be an economic refugee.
Economic.
What do you have to do or say?
You come
I'm in danger.
Border,
I'm not. I've never been there.
Okay, so if it's that easy, do you not think those numbers might be highly inflated with
people who aren't seeking
unjustifiable?
Hey, listen, that I'll agree with, but let me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that I can agree with, but we're calling those people who are seeking the legal process illegal. Okay, which that's one of my issues, is that they're not illegal.
What about now that it's not the process?
So
would you still agree with it?
What if they sought asylum but then didn't appear for their court date?
Okay, so that again is an issue. So let me go further. You
Okay.
got people who come in and they get a work visa.
Okay.
Okay, they apply for an extension that gets denied. They never leave. They are now an illegal immigrant. Okay, understand. Okay,
Correct.
So you then have your people who they came here on a student visa, and this goes far beyond Hispanic people. This is of all.
I agree.
Okay, but we're only seeing Hispanics on the news, on
but
any
let's
video.
be honest about the density of the issue.
And I looked up that after we had a conversation. I
Right.
said that there's far more Hispanics than I assumed.
Right, but it gets implied that it's racist to focus
Because
on
we're not
Hispanic.
seeing again,
Because
bro. You
that is
can't
the-
tell me. You can't tell me that. Well, while there's a war going on in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine, that there are not people here illegally from that continent.
I'm sure there are.
It's impossible. So we're not seeing anything with them. We're only focused on the people that are brown. So that's why, yes, I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm not saying that's the definite reason, but I'm not blocking it out because of all the other context of the people who making the decisions.
European countries also have a much harder time immigrating here illegally than
Fair. Yeah,
Hispanic
because they
countries.
go right across. I got it.
Yes.
Right.
So the numbers are significantly lower.
Why? So how passionate were you?
When you have a problem that's a 90-10 problem, which problem do you solve first?
Me personally, I'll look at all of it so I can be fair, but I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not, again, I'm
have
just
to
saying perspective is perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but now let me ask you this. You're so passionate about the 21 million, and I appreciate it. And I have a different view on what I think we should have a process be. However, there was a bipartisan bill that got worked on for over a year and a half that was unheardedly agreed on by almost every congressman and senator within our government.
Normally when they all agree, it's pretty bad.
But the whole bill was to go ahead and change the process of how asylum seeking is done.
Okay.
It was to give Border Patrol more enforcement. Okay. There was a lot that they were doing to help with the process.
Why was that necessary?
Because the process was broken. It was originally
Why?
I don't know what
Well,
you
to
look
fix the process that they had in place that
Yeah.
was obviously wasn't working.
They cut
were
their
trying
legs
to
out
find-
from under them.
They were trying to
Laws don't matter if they're not enforced.
They were trying to
Okay,
They were
but-
trying
but-
to solve
but
like
they're
what we
trying to-
talked about before this thing, where it's like there's different issue. There's different ways to solve a problem. So
Yeah.
it's like the Democrats wanted to keep the asylum seekers and then also still solve the issue.
Yeah, but it
of people
became
just
overwhelming.
overflowing. Yeah, which I mean, I think so. For me, just put my cards on the table. I'm much stronger on immigration than Paul is.
But, yes.
I think that it's actually a regression of the Liberal Party because they're actually the party to be anti-illegal immigration because it has an adverse effect on
Correct.
workers in America.
Correct.
And I think that should be our number one priority personally. So it's like, especially when we're going into an age of artificial intelligence, it's going to take a shit ton of jobs. So it's like, no, I think we do need to make sure people are coming across here. But I think that's what it was. I don't want to interrupt your guys' conversation.
No, you're
Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. I forgot exactly what I was going to say. Let me get my train of thought back. You go ahead. It'll come back to me.
So to me, I just feel like there was this bipartisan bill. It was getting passed. Then you have on Fox News, the host of Fox News, the female, forget her name at the time, and Mike Johnson were going back and they were having the conversation, and she said, "I just got off the phone with the president. I know you just did. What did he tell you about this bill?" Now, obviously, they're not talking about Biden. They're talking about Trump, who was not president at the time. But even though we won't talk about that disrespect, but
Right.
It's what Mike Johnson said is that Trump that the president said he doesn't want this bill to be passed, and they said on television because it would be bad for the election. So we're killing it.
Yeah, that's the political game, and I don't like it.
But we rewarded it. So my whole thing is, that there's an issue, and Trump cares so fucking much.
Well, how did he fix it within the first month?
What do you mean fix? So
we had record low illegal immigration within the first month of him coming.
You have to trust every number reported, and two. But
Okay,
I'm
if
not
the
going to go
numbers are
there.
accurate.
That's cheap. That's a cheap cop out. I'll admit. So two.
I could say that about any argument.
So
I mean, that's
exactly.
the information I have.
Numbers.
Yeah.
But two.
But
Who the fuck is trying to get here now?
Exactly. The messaging matters.
But see, and
when they know the door's open,
that's where. But see, that's
20 million people walk through it.
But see, that's where
when they know it's closed, you can look it up.
But that's
100 people walk through it.
But that's where it gets skewed, because to me, I don't think that's what America is supposed to represent. Fuck you, you're not allowed
enforcing our borders,
shutting your door to immigration. Unless you're a South African white refugee, then you can come in.
No, dude.
But that's what happened. I'm sorry for raising my voice. Go ahead.
This is an important distinction to make. Okay.
Okay.
There's a difference between illegal immigration and immigration. As far as I know, Trump has not closed the door. The door is open. There's a process in place so you can go through the door.
But
the door gets opened for you. If you open my door, that's when it's a problem.
Okay, so
you're not allowed to open my door.
So can we talk about a different form of fixing that isn't just enforcement and we're going to deport you to El Salvador and send you to prison?
Are they El Salvadorian?
No, the people going there are not just El Salvadorian. Those aren't. It wasn't 150,000 just.
Yeah, they're not all actually Salvadorian.
Okay,
but how about
they are supposedly connected to the El Salvadorian gang. So
which then you have a lot of discrepancies on that too. But again, but
that's legal.
Yeah. I mean, if you're dealing with 20 million people and you don't have any discrepancies, then you just deserve to run the government forever.
Due process really helps with that. I understand where due process you have to have them and then keep them in jail here and let them go through the process. But my issue is
I don't want to pay for that.
Oh, see, and that's
they came here legally. Why do I have to fund their legal defense?
You don't think that they're owed that though in this country? The Constitution says that.
It does.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
The problem I have
it doesn't specify U.S. citizens either.
Okay. So I might say something controversial here. I guess.
Please.
So I think we have principles.
Yeah.
When we're fortunate enough to be able to have principles, right? So let's say like
you're a utilitarian, basically.
You're against stealing, right?
Yeah.
But if your children are starving, you would steal to get food to feed them. But so you wouldn't rest on your principles in a case where you had something that was in contradiction.
Okay.
So how are you supposed to solve the problem?
So can you not,
if you have to provide 30 million or 20 million people or 30 million people or whatever number it is, and they have to go through our legal process, which takes years, and I know the feel-good answer is just...
that's the problem.
I know the feel-good answer is everyone just deserves this. But then you cannot solve the problem. But and that's where we're at. Do we want to solve the problem or not?
Okay, so...
go ahead.
Okay, well, I was going to respond to...
Please.
If your children are starving, you're going to go against your principles, right?
Yeah, and it's an extreme example,
No, it's the example.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's what I always say about a government. Watch it. Because when a motherfucker's hungry, they'll kill you for food. Mm-hmm. There's nothing you're going to do that's going to cause my kid to starve.
Yeah.
Okay? Can you not put that same thought process and perspective and empathy into the people who cross here illegally when that's their predicament?
I have no problem with the individuals.
So, but the process is broken.
I'm not making a moral indictment.
But the process is broken. So
our process is not. Their country is broken.
No.
Our process is not broken.
Both things can be true at the same time. So
we don't allow illegal immigration.
The process shouldn't take years.
That's a normal.
It shouldn't take years.
That's our legal system, though.
But no. The immigration process takes years.
Oh, the legal immigration. Yes,
bro. Listen, I have worked with guys who were born here or guys who were brought here as kids and went to high school here, graduated, and worked here for 10 years, and they're still waiting on their citizenship.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like that shouldn't be a thing.
Could it be streamlined? Yes, but it also,
that would fix the problem.
It wouldn't. Well.
Majority of the issue.
It could help fix the problem, but the problem is that immigration has to be, it can't be a free for all. It has to be monitored and tracked, and it has to be implemented in a way that it doesn't impose negative consequences on the actual population that lives here. If you bring in our population is I think about 340 million people.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. 20 million people is a significant part of that. Can you communicate with most of these people? Some of them maybe.
Okay, but
Do you share?
But
this is going to change This is going to change the makeup of whatever city a large mass of these people go to.
okay,
And that maybe that could be a good thing.
so
But say a city that's super rich in history, like
New York City.
New York City, right? It has its own culture. If 500,000 Mexican immigrants immigrated there tomorrow, do you think the culture of that city would change? Would it be the same?
There's other boroughs, brother.
There's already a housing crisis in places like New York City.
Oh, I hadn't even gotten to
already,
infrastructure.
And then you already have the issue where those cultures have already been pushed out through gentrification and things of that matter, where the people that are from that area that make up that group, they get pushed out.
So I don't see how you can expect people to be okay with that. And maybe you're okay with that, but you don't typically have to deal with the consequences.
So
the people in Texas deal with the consequences.
What do you mean?
The people in Arizona deal with those consequences. Southern California.
Where do
These are
us
the
in
states-
Southwest Florida not deal with consequences?
The consequences of Mexican immigration.
We deal with illegals all the goddamn
Yeah.
time, bro.
No, I know. Well,
Especially in my field. Oh, in my field, immigration.
I'm saying to that degree.
To be honest, immigration in my field, in the HVAC industry, has severely impacted.
Well, no. I mean, look at any construction crew. And again, I'm saying this. I'm not saying it to denigrate.
No,
the individual
I know.
people. It's
No.
the process.
It's a fair opinion, and this is where I think how we began this.
Mm-hmm.
We have two different perspectives. To me, I look at it with the taxes, and I wanted to hit that earlier. I believe in the Constitution, and I hold that Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the poem on the Statue of Liberty to heart.
It's a good document.
It is very important.
The poem on the statue is irrelevant to me, but
not to me. The Pledge of Allegiance is not irrelevant to me. To say liberty and justice for all is what I always held on to.
Whenever you have a stopping, I want to read this comment.
Okay.
So just letting you know.
You can go ahead if you want to.
Pretty sure to seek asylum, you must enter a legal port of entry. So if you're jumping walls and sailing makeshift boats on shore, you aren't seeking asylum. So
Okay, fair enough.
Because sometimes if we let it get too far, it's hard to actually address the comments.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a good point.
And that's a fair point. But to me, I look at it as when you look at like taxes. If you read the first article of the Constitution, it is very clear that we have to take taxes. It is very clear that states have to take their own taxes. Communities have to take their own taxes. That is in the first article of the Constitution.
we didn't have an income tax for quite a while.
Okay, but we
Does
didn't
this have to do with immigration?
Well, I'm bringing it all back to where when we break down as to what we believe this country is. To me, I look at immigration is a major part of this country, and that when you look at the Irish community, the Italian community, the Russian community, every community from Cubans to Haitians, there's always been an influx at a time
But the
of
amount
need.
matters.
But
the amount matters.
But why? What do you mean?
The enforcement of assimilation matters.
Okay.
And we've gotten away from that with our immigration in this country.
But
it is suggested that it's somehow racist to say when you move to another country, you should adopt, not get rid of your own culture, but adopt the culture of the country you moved to. I mean, I saw a bunch of bullshit that it's racist
But
to
what's American
suggest
culture?
that we should be an English-speaking country.
But that's stupid.
We do speak
hold on.
That doesn't mean you can't be bilingual.
But we've never had it. But we've never declared a national language.
Yeah, because now it's becoming an issue where you can't communicate with people that you share a country
Brother,
with.
you have a phone. You just Google Translate. I talked to Hispanic customers.
Is that a legitimate?
Why not? But we got.
I should have to use my phone to talk.
Why not? They're human beings, brother. Like
yes, they're
but
human
why
beings.
not?
If you were to immigrate to Japan, would you not take it upon yourself to learn their customs?
I cannot learn
their
Japanese.
tradition
I won't
and
be able to
learn
learn
their
Japanese.
language?
I want to be, and honestly, I just had
I
this.
think it's the most narcissistic thing to.
That's a hard language to learn. You know how hard it is to learn a
believe
language.
that you should be able to come as a guest to a country, but then not have to change.
Yeah.
At all.
I feel your point,
and
Cody.
expect everyone else in the nation to change to accommodate you.
I feel your point, but I think you're getting a little bit away from what makes America different. America's culture and Japan's culture aren't. They might as well be opposites in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm not saying that cultures are the same.
Well, but when you're saying
I'm
like
saying
in Japan, should you be able? Like, there's an expectation that we will take immigrants on here, and we will be. Not that they're not going to learn our language, but that we'll be patient with them while they do.
I think we should be patient.
Yeah,
I think we should help people that immigrate to our country. I think we should help them.
Well, but regardless, you're going to have to pull that phone out because there's going to be a period where they're trying to learn the language.
That's not my problem. My problem is the mindset of saying they don't. There's no reason to learn English. There's no reason to assimilate. But that's the mindset.
I don't know that that's the common mindset though. I think I agree that is a mindset. I would disagree with those people.
Maybe I'm reading the headlines and I'm applying that like we talked about. Maybe I'm applying that too broadly. But I see a lot of that.
I agree there are
that
people
is what
like
I don't like.
But forgive me when I push back by saying that's what nationalism is. You expect everyone to come here and just adapt to what we are. No, you're going to come here and be American. But what the fuck is American? American means so many different things. We're a multiculturalism country.
That's an extremely specific definition of nationalism, though. Nationalism, how we view it, it also
nationalism isn't inherently bad.
That's also,
it doesn't have to be bad,
but it's also not patriotism. We confuse the two, but they're not. They're not the same. We confuse the two.
No, they're not synonyms, but you can also be patriotic and be nationalist.
True, but but you can also be patriotic and not expect everyone to sit there and just adapt to you. To me, the beautiful part of where we are is because we take so many cultures in and allow them to take their place and then evolve into what American culture changes into. If not, then we would still be fucking buggies and cowboys. But we constantly adapted.
That would be pretty sick.
We adapted the French culture. We adapted Chinese culture. We adapted Hispanic culture. We fucking have Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
Fucking majority of our food, none of it's American.
Despite everything I've said, I do appreciate Taco Tuesday.
But goddamn it, come over here legally and bring your fucking tacos.
But you don't want to go to a taco truck. Because you don't go to a taco truck that doesn't have their food.
I want my tacos made by an illegal.
I don't want to read the menu. I want to go.
I don't have an issue with people coming here. I really don't, and I want to make that clear. I
understand that.
It's numbers and it's assimilation and I think. There's kind of two views of this country, right? There's a view that America is it's a concept, it's an idea, it's and I don't share that view. We're a country with our own history. We have ancestors within this country. We have unique cultures in this country that are not present anywhere else.
Then why don't we do only natural born, heritage born people can become president of the United States? You cannot be. You can't be. You can't. You can't bring in a culture.
I guess my first thought would be to prevent someone with an allegiance to another country.
But
becoming president.
But you can't be like
I mean,
your
if
parents.
You immigrated from Saudi Arabia when you were 30, and then 5 years later you ran for president.
Well, you can't do that, right? You can't.
No, we can't. Yeah. But I'm saying that might be a pretty good reason why we don't allow that.
What I'm saying is that hey, listen, if your family migrated here. If your grandparents migrated here, you're not homegrown. You're kind of a migrant. Your culture.
Well, we call it generational. You're a first generation.
Okay, so you can't be a fifth generation American who can't run for president because we need to make sure that you're so culture that you're so culture.
That's not true. You just have to be born here.
But I'm just saying, listen.
Let me read Chris' comment.
You literally just have to be born here.
I'm trying to pay attention over here, brother. So if you went to a country with the intent to spend the rest of your life there, you should probably learn their language.
Oh, you brought up.
Fair point.
So you brought me back.
Thank you.
So you brought me back to where I was going to say is I was just with we were just driving around yesterday or the day before, me and Lauren, and I literally said to her, I said, you know what's crazy? And to me, it does blow my mind. And again, I know where you obviously it makes all the sense. But to me, just from I don't believe in blurred fucking in lines and
you don't believe in countries
and entitlement. I believe in countries, but I believe in the world. Okay, and humans.
Well, what about
I'm not a globalist at all.
But I feel the globalist thing in the sense of, hey, listen, hey, listen, man.
All right, Klaus Schwab.
Hey, listen, man.
Klaus Schwab on the fucking.
I don't like what's going on. I travel over to Ireland. And I say, you know what, man? I really fucking like this here.
Yeah.
I can't just fucking move there. Yeah. Like there's all this whole process, and it's like, that is a little crazy to me.
Yeah.
That people can come here, but people can come here to work.
They want to preserve
You can come
their
here and
culture.
work for 4 years. and then we can just tell you, you know what? I know you got an apartment here. And I know you have a job
you want
here.
all the richest people from China just to move here and push us out of fucking Florida?
Why do you think so many countries?
But again, I get, but that's what I'm saying. I get where there's laws, and
everyone
I'm
will be
fine.
pushed to fucking these like middle of the country if we're even able to stay in the country. It was just a completely open country. It's not going to benefit the poor the most.
And that's where the open countries. That's not.
Well, you said the
blurred
blurred line thing. That's why I took issue with, because then it's kind of like treating borders as if they're just
well, I could take
bullshit.
philosophy and differentiate it from law.
Okay.
So to me, feels like my philosophy is that people are people, and to stop like the entitlement of where I'm born matters so much, and that hey, listen, if people want to come here for a better life, they want to come here to escape something that's going on. They come here and they work. They come here and they go to school. They come here and they do all this, and then they want to be part of this country, and they're not criminals.
Yeah.
Then what the fuck? Because I see these bums every day that were born and raised here that aren't a betterment to our society.
Well, supply and demand for one. A lot of people want to come to this country, so you can't just say this. Like you're using like this like emotionally charged example, and I understand those exist, but the reality is like we do have to have some kind of organization on one who's coming into the country, so we know who.
Right.
Yeah. And then also just so it isn't unfair. I mean, I'm of the mind I don't think we should be devoting all this money, and it seems like the Trump administration's coming along to this view as far as like we shouldn't be spending all this money trying to hunt down fucking illegals. That's crazy shit to me. Now, if somebody breaks a law in this country, we find out that they're illegal, I think they need to go. Like, and I mean, if you just find out somebody's illegal, technically, I have no issue with rounding them up. But these like campaigns to round up illegals in cities and shit like that, I think that's just a little silly to be devoting money towards that when we're trying to cut down government costs. And there's so many other places that our money could be better used, in my opinion.
It's not my number one priority, but I don't think it's a waste.
Well, even there, but so, and that's fine. That's fair for you to feel that way. But even the Trump administration, I was reading last night, now they're the whole self-deport thing. So they're moving more in that direction where they're talking about even raising that amount is what I was reading last night, because that's like a week old that they were going to pay people $1,000 to self-deport.
Oh, okay.
So now to even churn out even more interest in that angle, because it's, I guess, cheaper for them to pay somebody $1,000 to leave rather than go through the whole process. Use the resources so like what you're saying as far as the court thing. Just while I'm talking, because I didn't want to interrupt your guys' conversation earlier, because I took issue with your original analogy. I thought it was a really interesting analogy, and it kind of made me think as far as like the stealing thing. So kind of the utilitarian
like,
kind of like concept.
Like you have principles when you have the privilege of having principles.
Exactly. And I understand what you're saying, but I think that when we start to, and I see from an individual standpoint to where that's very accurate, but then it kind of puts us in a position to where, well, the government's never really tethered. You know what I mean?
Right,
like
to a principle.
Exactly. Yeah. In reality, it's like, and you kind of touched on this a little bit when you said you don't really view America as, ideas or the shining capital on the hill.
We have ideas, but we're more than that, was my point.
Exactly, which I think that one of the great things that America does do when they're not being the world police, a closer version of that is kind of put forth some kind of, I'm a little bit of a colonialist, I'll say. Okay. Like I've realized this talking to my liberal friends. Where I'm like, we've had this talk. I think that there's actually some good that comes from that. As far as like, I'm not a globalist either, but I do see like when people like paint colonialist powers and shit like that as an automatic like empire and negative, I don't necessarily see it as that, because I do think that there's a lot of people in other countries that we could maybe help in humanitarian ways and make their country more livable, rather than just saying just flood here, run from your fucking country, come this way.
You bring up
yes
the best point. Okay. And this is a point I've tried to make, and I wasn't trying to cut you off.
No,
sorry.
Please, no.
Your point about the root problem.
Yeah.
The root problem. Okay, are you helping individuals by allowing them to immigrate here? Yes. You're also condemning everyone else that is born in that country people are fleeing for eternity unless that problem gets solved.
Okay. And
who is going to solve the problem?
Yeah.
It has to be the citizens of that country. It cannot be us. There are quite a few examples of that. Vietnam is one of them. More recently, y'all remember Iraq and Afghanistan?
Yeah. Okay, but we've talked about how that wasn't just about, look, you can't go into the Middle East and say, hey, listen, the way that you've lived your life since the start of the Bible is wrong, and you need to do what we do. Okay, but you look at Saudi Arabia and Dubai, and they've adapted more of the American culture when you look at their cities. Okay.
Well, we don't need to export it by force.
No. But what we know is that there were some personal benefits being at work for that. That wasn't just us going in to help where Bill Gates is in Africa to help with polio and the mosquito and West Nile and all that.
Well, it's because it's a delegation process. You're putting you're putting a fucking like puppet government in place, which also happens, or you're trying to give the tools to that country in order to facilitate it on their own with as much help as we can offer. But I mean, I do worry that we don't have the resources. We're stretched thin at this point. It's kind of how I feel.
And I agree with that. But Rwanda.
To me, the problem is not that we don't allow illegal immigration. In regards to Mexico, the problem is the cartels and their economic situation. That's why they want to leave Mexico.
Okay. So
and take any other country with a major issue. They want to leave it because there are major issues in the country.
Okay. So
and those aren't going to be solved.
Okay. So see,
until they're solved.
So see, this is, and again, I'm not pushing back on that. Where my pushback comes is that we focus on certain groups so much. And again, that's part of the
because certain groups
of the immigration process
have problems,
but
that other groups do not have.
Do you think that we should be able to? I thought this earlier. Do you think we should be able to profile people based off like the race, for example? Because the Hispanic thing,
race,
I didn't want to cut it off.
Race, but cultures are definitely different.
Well, no. Just because the reason I asked that is because we talked about earlier the 90-10 problem. If it's mostly Hispanics, and you guys touched on that. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Okay, so when you guys were talking, I didn't want to interrupt, but now it seems a little relevant as far as like. You were like, well, of course you focus on the Hispanic problem because that's the big part of the problem. But in order to do that, are you going to, like for example, Arizona caught a lot of heat like 10, 15 years ago because they were asking people and they made it legal to ask people for their
citizenship.
It's tough.
So do you think that's something?
I think that encroaches on people's... I mean it's tough because it's gonna start encroaching on their civil rights, which I think is wrong. I think once you identify but
that's why due process.
Once you identify it, but.
So going and saying, hey, is your name Paul Balcom
and Mexican and saying, hey, are you fucking illegal? I don't think that's right.
Or what's been going on?
It could go to that level, though,
that's
obviously.
not my claim.
But you have issues.
That's why I wanted to clarify.
But you have situations going on where these people are going up and saying, hey, is your name Gabriel Gonzalez? Yeah. Okay. And then next thing you know, these people getting detained, and it's like. Okay, but you're looking for someone completely fucking else. So why not go through this process?
Well, that needs to get fleshed out. My point is like the year-long legal battles. That's my point about the due process. Obviously, if you hem someone up, you better fucking verify you got the right. I'm not saying. I'm not saying
we need
to
fix that process.
Exactly.
It's not a closed. To me, it's not a closed down thing.
Yeah,
it's a fix that process. Expedite that process.
Okay, what you're saying is a great point, and I think it ties to the root cause problem. We're starting. So where we're saying, where we're saying like let's help address the root cause for the people in their home countries. Let's also address like some problems we have here, which I think we would all agree that the legal system is fucked.
Oh, we got lots of problems.
And I don't want to.
Which I would rather focus on than other people's problems.
I don't want to derail this. I agree with you. I don't want to derail this, so I don't want to get off into the weeds too much on this. But like for example, we don't have enough people to work our legal system. Why not make something like college more affordable to people who are domestic residents here?
Yes.
For example, so we have more lawyers.
I'm open to that.
And instead of giving other country students all these grants, because brother, like these universities, they give more grants, and again, it's because of the legalities of our scholarship process also. To foreign doctors and lawyers and people going into school, which again, I believe in both situations being available. Shout
out to you, Chris. I appreciate you.
But where I wanted to say, like we're hitting just the cartel. We have got to stop being so fucking ignorant on white gangs. Okay. For example, I've grown up watching every fucking glorification of the mafia since I was a child to now.
Yeah.
But yet, black gangs have always been such an issue. When both were an issue, the mob was sitting there.
They're both idolized.
Well, and also white gangs. White gangs are
of rap, not all rap.
100%.
A lot of rap is the glorification of.
I'm saying the white America.
But also the RICO case came about and things like that. Like so, like it's not like as a society we just accept white gangs.
I know. But I'm saying it's glorified.
Yeah, John Gotti was like a celebrity.
Fucking bro, Scarface
In New
is
York,
everyone's
which
favorite
is-
movie.
which
Godfather's
is wrong.
everyone's favorite movie.
Which is
Tom
wrong. I
Hardy's
don't
in
think-
every mafia
But we
movie
do
now.
that.
I don't think
But,
we have
but,
to
but hold on,
disagree.
Paul. Just because I mean, it's an interesting thing. I don't want to get too into this, but this is an interesting topic that I would like to talk about. But I completely disagree with you because it's like we idolize black gang members too. Like rappers will be like, "I'm in the Bloods," and how cool is that?
That's
Look
my
at all the people
point.
with red
It's-
bandanas behind us, and
but
people
it's
like
all
you.
wrong.
But I'm
It's
not.
all wrong,
It's
but
all.
yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is it's all wrong. But
it's
you have the same
corrosive to
people.
our culture.
But what I'm saying is,
Okay, gotcha.
from my
I think.
from what
Yeah, yeah.
I've experienced by being what I look like,
Yeah.
how I am, and people talking to me
Yeah.
freely, is that the same people who have an issue with the Bloods and Crips, the same people who have an issue with black violence, are perfectly fine and love a Al Capone. And it's like, but both were bad. And it's again, it's because
might like
which
a
we
movie.
glorify,
I don't
but
know
all
if they
that.
like what he
but
did,
what I'm going
like,
further
honestly.
into, what
Yeah.
I'm going further into, is stuff like motorcycle clubs.
Yeah.
Okay, we act like, oh my god,
Hells Angels and shit.
all that
Yeah.
shit's so cool. My favorite TV shows that when you know
So
they're pushing fentanyl in your community. We have a bar here in Charlotte County that is very prevalent. Everyone goes
I
to.
didn't
Cops
know.
frequent to. That people leave there. And what I've heard from a couple customers who are bikers who've
Yeah.
gone there, that fentanyl is pushed in drugs
That's
here.
crazy.
And it comes from some biker gangs.
But Paul,
so my whole thing
what's
is
your point, brother? I'm
my
trying to,
point
like,
is
trying to
that when
understand.
we have this conversation, we focus on the cartel. When we talk about immigration, it always gets turned to, well, fentanyl, drugs cartel, gangs. And my
Yeah.
thing is,
But
I agree, but we also had that issue here that it's not nearly as addressed.
Well,
and
you
that's
know
kinda
what's
my
funny
problem.
is a lot of American gangs are subservient to the cartels. The cartels utilize American gangs to not manufacture, to
distribute.
Thank you.
Is it against their will?
What?
Like what I'm saying is like, so you're saying that
Probably
the cartel,
by force. I would imagine so. This we're talking gang shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not.
Well, Either way, though, I don't understand.
you know what else they're doing is they're using our Indian reservations.
Yeah, but
Because we don't have the same level of jurisdiction on them.
Wow.
So the cartels have infiltrated. This
See,
is something
I-
actually tribal leaders
I
are
haven't
talking
seen
about.
this
That's
at
really
all.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
because
interesting.
they've essentially made it. It's huge in Montana because Montana has a ton of Indian reservations, and our government can't,
Yeah.
initiate.
They have no jurisdiction.
Yeah, we
in the same way.
we abuse
And they
our
take-
power
and they
with
take
them.
advantage of it. And they take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But
No,
that
that's true.
came from Mexico. Now, are Mexicans not involved with the cartel? I'm not blaming innocent Mexicans about that.
Yeah.
But it's a problem coming from Mexico.
So, but where's fentanyl stuff coming from? It's all coming from Mexico.
Well, China's providing the
China too.
precursor, and
Yeah.
then
Okay.
Mexico's producing it and manufacturing it.
Okay, because I've always made the argument that I have
You
a
gotta
cousin,
do some digging on the
that,
cartels,
That
man.
I have a cousin. I have a
It's
cousin in
pervasive.
Alabama that cooks meth. Most likely. I mean, I have family in Alabama. I
Shit.
can assume that one of them is cooking meth. Okay,
God damn, okay.
the weeds grown
Make
in
sure it was this guy
California.
that said it.
Okay, weeds
Guy in
grown
the
in
white hat.
weeds grown in California. Okay, pills can come from Canada or just Arcadia's pharmacy.
Yeah.
So it's always to me the whole cartel, the whole fentanyl thing, as big of an issue as it has been so glorified for
Because
political
it's literally
reasons, but for
one of the
political
biggest
reasons,
criminal
though.
organizations in the world, Paul.
But if that wasn't the thing, then what would the Republican Party have ran on?
I don't. That's not even the point of why I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up. My point is, it's destabilizing Mexico
My point
and
is that
causing millions of
my
people
point
to
is-
feel the need to flee across hundreds of miles of desert to
but
get to a new country.
To me, I just feel as
That's
if
a problem.
again, yes, but again, I feel we also have a huge surge of UK citizen requests from U.S. citizens because people want to flee our country. So it's not all just because
the
of bad.
scale of that is not even.
But it's still. But I'm just saying, so we can always paint
Because
the picture.
you're trying to equivocate it, but they're not even close.
No,
They're
no,
not
no,
even
no,
close.
they're not close. But what I'm saying is that yes, people flee for whatever reasons. Yes, it's cartel.
They're not fleeing our
Cartel's
country
bad.
due to
no
fear,
one's saying
Paul.
no one's saying that the cartel's good.
White people are
I'm
not
I'm
fleeing
not,
to the UK because of fear.
I'm not pro. Oh no, that's not true. People fear. People fear prosecution.
Yeah,
they
people
feel
just
political
fear what the country
prosecution
will turn out
or what
to
the
be.
country will turn into.
All right,
so
I'm not.
Rosie O'Donnell's scared.
I won't dog
again,
people.
I'm not saying that they're all right, but that is the thing. So and again, I'm not pro cartel.
No, I would never
I'm
make the
against
claim that you
organized
were.
crime.
You were.
I am anti
yeah.
all organized crime.
That's not what you guys thought, right?
But what I'm saying is, I feel as if the media on the right painted it out as the only issue that we have, or the largest issue on scale, when to me it isn't. My street does not have the cartel just riding down the fucking street.
But do you think it's something that needs to get dealt with?
Yes,
okay.
but on a long list of things.
I mean, I
and
agree.
It was not the most important.
So
to me, the most important was Americans' health care.
So it's a prioritization issue. That's it.
Sure.
Then we
which comes from the media.
We could stop this
additional question with the immigration is the people that have been deported because of the showing support to Hamas, supposedly.
Right. Which that's
so
what we
people
talked about
from on college campuses and stuff, and organizing protest events. Being deported from that. I'm curious your guys' opinion on it.
So,
so these are you're saying these are not American students; they're foreign students
here on visa. Well, so it's different. It varies. So there's some people. Most of them were here based on like a student visa type deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we conflate a lot of things that are privileges with being rights.
Okay.
And a student visa is a privilege.
Yeah,
not a right.
But
and if you're going to come to a country as a guest to get an education, I do not think you should be sowing discontent.
But can you show me the Constitution of the Bill of Rights where it says that? Because I can show you where it says all persons are afforded the rights. So our rights are afforded to anyone on the soil.
Okay, they're not being deported then. They're having their visa revoked.
Well, but even then, don't you think there should
freedom
be
of speech?
Don't you think we should have some level of standard?
Okay, maybe let me say it this way. I wouldn't justify it from the free speech perspective. I'm certainly not butthurt about it. I'm certainly not losing sleep.
Okay. So that's how I feel about immigration.
Well, it's kind of interesting because it's like I get what you're saying, but it's also these people are speaking about a foreign war involving another country, not even America.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like when you say sowing discontent, I mean they're practicing free speech, which I wouldn't. I mean, I'm not a sensitive person, and
discontent
I think that
with us in Israel.
If you're in this country, you have to.
There should be discontent between us and Israel. They're shaping way too much of our foreign policy.
But therein lies the problem.
That's what these people are speaking out about. Me and you might even agree that what they're saying is actually in our best interest.
Sorry, I might have been circular or just being an ass. At the end of the day, no, I don't think these people should be deported.
Okay, so
just curious.
So I don't think it's exact. I mean, I'd have to look at what the stipulations are on student visas.
Did you hear about these cases, by the way?
No, I don't know specifically about them. Okay. I've heard like surface level, but I haven't dug into them, so I don't know any of the.
There's three really popular cases,
finer details.
And just because what you mentioned earlier about our news cycles, it's like for me, that's something I get all the time.
I get that every day. That's what. But that's the shit I see every day.
Right. But if there's if there is an avenue for them to be able to revoke the visa.
Yeah.
Then maybe what they're doing is not wrong. We might just not like it, or we might just find it distasteful.
But see, that's what's kind of.
I don't know.
It's kind of unconstitutional. To me,
I don't know the student visa. Like I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, you're violating people's constitutional rights by being here, and that bothers me. When you look at so you're telling me that we're taking in these farmers. So our farmers, first of all, our farmers are under attack. Trump said during the campaign, our farmers are struggling.
Okay.
Then we go ahead and we open up.
I'll trust you. I don't
citizenship and immigration to white South African farmers. Farmers.
Holy shit,
because of a genocide.
You're coming for these fucking farmers.
Hold on.
58 dudes.
Hey, 58 farms in America. 58 farmers.
Dudes.
58 American farmers.
You lose no sleep over 20 million motherfuckers.
I'm telling you right now, they're 58. It matters on fucking principle, goddammit.
South Africa.
So hear me out.
I find it hard to take this seriously.
Hear me out. So Trump says this is because of genocide, which is unproven outside of their circle, right? And I'm talking about, it's not even like you have people like Ben Shapiro who have been kind of up against you gotta watch what you're saying.
I used to like him, but
because he want to get Trump, goddammit. But no, I'm joking.
He's one of the biggest grifters.
Yeah, I hate him.
Once I caught on to it, I was like,
thank you. Okay, so it's him and Charlie Kirk. They are just grifters as fuck, and that's always bothered me.
I don't really know about Charlie Kirk,
and especially when Shapiro's daddy is the funnel. But anyways, then you go ahead and you deport because you care about genocide so much. We have to take these people in. Yeah. So then you go ahead and you deport people that are talking about actual genocide. And what bothers me even more about that is
That's not what he said.
But-
he said supporting Hamas. Those are two different things.
Well, that's
a very vague line.
Yeah, that's
No, it is not.
That's
Supporting
just
supporting the
hold on.
Palestinians
No,
and supporting Hamas is the same.
Well, here,
That's what they're trying to say.
Hold on, yeah,
though.
let's just be clear.
Let James talk.
It's the strong case from the administration that they're supporting Hamas. It's very debated against are they just supporting Palestinians, or are they even just saying, or are they even just saying
genocide.
we shouldn't be funding?
Sorry, when you
Because
told
we're
me
funding genocide.
When you told me
you
the
did say
topic,
Hamas.
you said,
You did.
So
that's
I did.
why.
Well, because I was just trying to tell you exactly what the administration is
No, but
trying to
now
put
I
forth.
understand the distinction.
So the administration is claiming that, but what they're doing is they're just going against genocide. And what's even more ironic is that Trump was just there shaking the hands of a fucking terrorist of Syria, and then Qatar, who is funneling the fucking who they help pay the money to Hamas.
Yeah.
So where do you sit in this, Trump? Where are you? And that's where it's so fucking inconsistent.
I think he doesn't want to go to war with any of these countries.
So is he a strong guy or not?
I think he wants to.
War's not strong.
I think he wants
Sometimes
to.
it's strong not to go to war.
No,
I think he
100%,
wants to.
but no, Biden was a pussy though.
I think he wants to wrest control of the region from Iran by undermining Iran's relationship with other Middle Eastern countries.
Okay, and
if we make other Middle Eastern countries rich, we destabilize that relationship.
Okay, so question:
Which
your
is a good thing.
Your background with military, okay, and all that. Okay. Do you have any bit of what the fuck with him being friends with Syria? And
I wouldn't call them friends. I mean, we don't get to pick world leaders. We do not. Well, sometimes the CIA tries to, but generally, we don't get to pick. Like we have to operate in the environment that we're given. We don't get. Would we rather not have Kim Jong-un?
Yeah.
Or Putin?
But we don't do business with
or Zelensky?
But we don't do
business. We do business with plenty of questionable people, Paul. Not all of them.
Not
our
Kim
economy
Jong-un
is
or
completely
Putin.
enmeshed with China.
Yes.
And they are our biggest antagonists. But I mean, again,
God, that's such a.
You can't really pick and choose. Who
What
you
has
want to
China
get
done to us? What war have we gone to with China? What war have they funded against us? Is there?
We haven't.
I mean, China
is war the only?
No.
Is war the only way a country can?
It's also there's economic wars and things like that. So it's like you can make an argument that China's been a huge part of destabilizing our middle class.
They've been stealing our IP, military technology,
that too.
Okay,
real estate. Go down the list.
So
for decades.
So real estate, we sell it. But
yeah, so I shouldn't have lumped that in with stealing.
Yeah,
but the way they acquire it, and
IP
the
and stuff. Okay, yeah. So
in the early 2000s, when they moved a shit ton of manufacturing over to China,
but that was Steve Jobs and them
to help bolster. Well,
why do we not hold the corporations fucking responsible for shit like that? Okay,
so
they exported labor. Yes, it was cheaper.
Yes,
which was un-American.
Okay,
which was, or maybe un-American is the wrong term, but it definitely was not in America's
best interest.
Not, at least not for the American workers.
No, it was not. 100%. But
and these other countries don't have labor laws like we do.
No.
So,
but I always hear this China ghost. I always hear this China boogeyman. We have a higher GDP.
It's legitimate though.
I worked in an intel section for quite a while,
and that's where like your
there's a lot about China.
Well,
okay,
bro,
and that's where like I want to hear
I think
this.
You probably know a shit ton, but it's like at the end of the day, just drive to fucking like Detroit. I'm from Indianapolis. Drive through Indianapolis. You'll see like factories completely abandoned because manufacturing went over to China in the late 90s or whatever.
Okay.
And then now there's no middle class jobs for these. I wouldn't use this terminology because I despise it, but low skill workers. I think you have. Go ahead.
No. I agree with like that principle, and again, like that I get. But
what's more devastating than that?
But dude? I also heard it from the perspective of someone else, who says that. Why is it their fault that they used our manufacturing to help better their economy and put their people further ahead? Now I'm only saying that.
They're not wrong for operating in their own best interest.
Now I'm only saying that.
And neither are we.
Okay, but right. But I'm only saying that because
take the ever out. We sometimes are wrong.
But I'm saying that because earlier you pointed to how the. This might have been off or on camera, but to the growth of the Middle East, because I was talking about the Saudi connection with 9/11 and all that, and the boom, and how, look, sometimes we have with relationship and all that, the country's going to help better themselves, and we can't be mad about that. So it kind of seems like this China thing.
I didn't say don't be mad about it. I don't I don't like our history with these countries.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't make me happy. But if this is the alternative to 20 years of war, then yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, okay.
I will take
Fair,
that, and I'll swallow the pill, even though it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, again, I just don't take their money.
I don't need 20 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
100%.
I don't
we didn't need it to begin with. But again, that's always my issue. We circle back to, I believe we were Saudi's puppet there because it helped boost them.
I can't really make a
that's
claim
going to be
on the puppet thing.
Yeah,
but again, just from surface level.
Yeah,
increasing, I don't know. I mean, increasing their economic
but with China,
opportunity is going to be better for their country.
Yeah,
and therefore
and that's
probably
what China
ours
did.
Than bombing it.
And that's what China did. And I think that what we've always done wrong here is with this trickle-down effect, which, again, came from a certain political party that isn't called Democrats, that we allow these corporations to have this freedom to go ahead and not only take their corporations that way, but then we give them every subsidy that they need, every tax break that they need, every bailout that they need,
I know,
every bankruptcy file that they need, and help them out. Although
another example of how my taxes are misused.
Yes, but again, but that is not an issue with taxes. That's an issue with how they're being used and the framework
spending,
of what we're doing economically and within capitalism, being so hell bent on capitalism instead of trying to say, hey, let's go with a new evolved way of using some of what good about socialism and tickling it in, so that way we can stop allowing these corporations to go. What I've always said is you don't get tariffs, because tariffs are not the way to go. And every economist said that. I'm not an economist, but I listen to what they say, and they said some tariffs are understandable. We've always had tariffs, but going to where we're going to do this hammer down effect isn't going to work. First of all, the infrastructure it takes to bring these factories back is going to take so long that it's going to cost these companies money. What I've always thought would be the best practice is everyone, hey, listen, you're at 20% tax rate. You want a tax break? Where's your factory? Where's your headquarters? How much are you paying your employees?
Yeah, I think the incentive structures need to change. 100%.
That's where you get your tax breaks. You don't just get your tax breaks by just because you're a corporation and you make a bunch of money, and then you use that money to employ people. Right. But you're also just capitalizing on fucking everything.
Mm-hmm. So I blame them. I blame them
for China, not China for China. China, I don't agree with communism. They have their own issues. They have their own humanitarian issues and all that shit that I don't agree with. Yeah. But we can go about that with a lot of the world.
I'm not saying our hands are clean, but I would not absolve them of their responsibility for what they've done. But I would agree. You didn't make a specific point about how you would change it, but I agree with the overall premise that the incentive structures need to change. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are going to follow that. I mean, there's obviously cons with capitalism, but one of the pros is that it's really easy to know what people are going to do, because they're going to do what makes them the most money. So you provide them with the correct incentives to allow them to make the most money, and that's what they're going to do. Not to boil it down to be that simple, but that's kind of what it is.
Do you believe that it would be a fantasy to believe that we can put some societal obligation back into the integrity of business?
Can you be more specific?
That instead of bottom line, it's you have an obligation to pay a higher wage. You have an obligation to society to help society propel forward.
If you're talking about minimum wage,
we can't get into this too much, just because I found out we have only a little bit of time left here.
Yes, sir.
And there's some other things I want to get to.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I want to couch that, because that is. Ask that again.
Like, do you think it's a fantasy to believe that we can bring back societal obligation to corporations?
It depends on how and what. I think.
Because I think that's what's lost in the integrity of corporate America and business structure today.
Yeah, corporations are contributing to some pretty bad outcomes.
Brother,
I think single-use plastic, we're gonna have to do something about that pretty soon.
Yeah.
The fashion industry, clothing industry, we're gonna have to do something about that. I mean, we overproduce everything.
Oh,
it's not
crazy.
just us, but we're a pretty big fucking producer.
Just because that is really interesting. I would like to have that full conversation. I know we don't have the time today to really dig into that, but I think there's a lot of other things as far as like certain industries, profit motives, and things.
Yeah, right.
I think it's a really big conversation.
Guide us down the river, man.
So one of the things I want to make sure to ask you guys about before we get out of here today is how familiar are you guys with the Karmelo Anthony situation? Kid that stabbed Austin Metcalf at the track meet.
I've read a little bit about it.
So much
I know of it, but I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't deep dived in
Not
it.
deep dive. Okay, well, it's fine. So the only reason I mentioned this because yesterday, Karmelo Anthony was charged as an adult for first-degree murder. So I was curious how you guys felt. It sounds like maybe Cody, you haven't read too much about it, but essentially there's a disagreement on the track meet. Kind of situation.
No, I know that.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I do. I know about what happened.
gotcha.
I just haven't.
What I would like
position on it.
What I would like to see in it is what is the difference between in the state of Texas, because one of the issues with the being charged as an adult is that it seems as if it's more statistically higher for black or brown teenage boys to be charged as adults versus white in the state. So I would like to see how much truth is there.
Well, could I ask you just a direct question in this instance? How do you feel about this specific scenario?
So this specific scenario, I'm interested in how the trial goes to see what facts are facts. Because
do you disagree with the charges? Where we're at right now.
Did he have first degree murder?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say with what it is, I would rather say like manslaughter or something or third degree.
I was gonna say it was always likely to be that was always likely.
Yeah,
to be
but
the
that's gonna be it.
Well, I think charged as an adult is the question. At least that I was seeing online. I was engaging in a little bit of discourse myself.
So at 17, it's hard.
Yeah, 17.
It's hard to argue that
it's hard to argue that you're not an adult. You can make those decisions.
Yeah.
But the
that's
penalties
not what I think of when I think of a child.
No, exactly. But the penalties carry a much larger sentence.
Well, in the
and
crime,
he's still a kid.
So you think there is instances where a minor, it's appropriate to charge them as
correct.
An adult? Okay.
Correct. Premeditated heinous crimes. Yeah, you thought that.
Yeah.
Nice try, buddy.
You're not a baby.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about this too much, but at the surface, I don't know what that cutoff is, but there's obviously a point where you're making big boy decisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know exactly when that is, but I think 17 is past the line.
Yeah.
I mean, should a 12-year-old get charged as an adult?
15, 16.
No.
Yeah.
Like, 17, and how far off of 18 is he?
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of playing semantics.
Well, I mean, I think even like 16, 15.
Yeah, 15,
it's true.
16,
I don't know where the
like,
line is, but it's like
it's close to there.
Yeah, when you're talking about stabbing somebody to death, based off like a war of words, that's a person that whether it's a first degree, you need to go to prison for life, or if it's a situation where you need to sit down for 10 years. Something significant, though. So, something significant because you ended somebody's life.
You took a life.
And you're showing a inability to regulate emotions, and we just can't have that in society to that extent.
But see, here's where this always becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Is in a state like Texas, just like in Florida, if this was a gun, would it be looked at as differently than a knife?
I mean, I'd say the exact same thing.
In terms of stand your ground. Because, again, this is where discrepancy comes into play. Where are you getting your information?
Yeah.
Because some people say, hey, this was unprovoked. He was in his tent and he just stabbed him.
Well, from what I remember about a lot of discourse in this country is that unarmed people shouldn't be shot.
No,
wasn't that quite a big conversation
by
for a
cops? By cops or by civilians?
Well,
because
obviously the conversation was about cops.
Cops have a little bit more training than your average civilian in these situations.
Does that absolve someone of the responsibility of killing someone that has no weapon?
I think it absolves the mental state. So if you're trained in hand-to-hand combat, if not just hand-to-hand combat, if you're trained by your job has trained you to handle this situation, you should handle the situation better than just your average person, especially a 17-year-old kid.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
I'm not.
You're also the one with
that.
a taser, a gun, a nightstick, a flashlight that's heavy as fuck, body armor, backup, the letter of the law. You have all these protections. And getting paid to do so. You may need to wait until there's an actual threat on your life before taking a life.
No, I wasn't.
So that's where I differentiate.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to make a false equivalence there, but like I'm saying. Because you brought up the gun, and I would just say either way he was unarmed.
No, he was unarmed.
Regardless of what weapon it was, he was unarmed. So really, what we're really what it comes down to is, can he justify the claim that he was in fear of his life?
Yes, that and that's what I'm saying. So in this case, if the situation,
and based off a shove, I don't know.
But see,
I'm gonna wait because I don't know everything.
And that's why I said
it looks a little bit. It doesn't.
I want to wait for the trial because some things I saw was he grabbed his bag. Some things I saw was he grabbed his person, like he grabbed Karmelo. I saw he shoved Karmelo. Then I saw that he didn't even touch Karmelo.
Right.
So what is the truth?
Right.
And that's going to come out in trial.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like on this, in a situation like this, I'll be okay. And although I'm a strongly opinionated to say I don't know enough about this case to even.
I think that's probably the responsible position to take. Like, we don't know. They're going to hash it out in court. A kid died, which is bad.
Question about the scenario, just to go a little bit further, is he did raise over $500,000 through GoFundMe, and I was curious how you guys felt about that.
Well, you want to go first?
GoFundMe's been a weird thing lately. I mean, a lady got how much money for being racist?
Yeah,
blatantly racist in public, and then
that's on here.
And then this is for legal proceedings. It's for the family. I mean, look. I'll stick with this. This is America. It's a free country. You can crowd fund for whatever you want, and people can donate to what they want. I wouldn't donate to it.
Essentially, what we're talking about, we're not talking about legality or anything like that. We're talking about if we like it. If we find it distasteful. I
think even morals, though. I think I could look at that.
From a moral standpoint. But I'm just saying there's
from a moral standpoint.
Even if you're justifying the legal defense, I think if this is somebody suspected of murder and there's pretty clear indication that regardless if you think it's first degree or if you think it was manslaughter or whatever you might think, he took somebody's life, I don't think that it is an odd thing to take it upon yourself as another individual to say, well, I want to alleviate any kind of like pain and struggling this person's going through as far as already undue stress from fucking legal fees or whatever.
I would question the morality of both instances because you brought up the other one
the
about
Shiloh Hendricks, the N-word lady that.
But it's just.
Do I dare?
Say what you want.
This is like the Piers Morgan.
No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Everybody chill out.
But we know what we're talking about.
Don't offend me.
I think it's pretty. We're all likely to be in agreement on this. That from a moral perspective, I would question all of these people.
Yeah, personally,
it's as simple as that.
I understand that there are people out there that feel so strongly that this kid is innocent because of no facts yet.
But to be fair with you, that's not the justification I see. I see justification around his race.
Bait. Yeah, okay, and that's fair. And that's disingenuous.
I read a lot of comments on both.
Yeah.
And
I'm not seeing a lot of he's innocent. I'm
You're
seeing
going to
just
hell
a lot
now
of
for
that.
being
there was a whole lot
he's going to be railroaded because
there was a whole lot of fuck white people, kill white people, and then on the other
side.
I was just about to say it. The other side's the same shit.
It's bad on both sides right now.
And then it's like, all right, motherfuckers, we know what you're doing. Like both sides are being blatantly disgusting.
I'm not agreeing with the person that types the N-word out on online or whatever, but it's like those people are being antagonized in that case. They're responding regardless. Yeah. Those are the people that are reacting to people who are, donating to somebody who killed somebody.
Question.
Fucking GoFundMe. Just go ahead. Yeah,
no, because larger than that.
To comment stuff
because it will wrap in a lot.
Yeah.
Is it time that we stop publicizing these things so greatly? I mean, I've always been against the not talking about mass shootings because you have to, like, it happened, and it becomes let's not talk about it because of politics.
Yeah.
But but to politics, you have the Riley Lincoln case, and again, as far as a horrible case, devastating, never in agreement with the person who murdered her.
Sure.
That happens every day in this country, and it's never a big national case. That was a politicized case because that was an illegal immigrant.
Yeah, but do you think that's a bad thing?
I think that's what I'm asking you. Like, is it like? Do you think that it's something that causes so much divide in this country, and at this point in time, we don't need more divide, or is it still so important to have these discussions?
You're only saying that because and I think you're correct, honestly, that because you can't trust the arbiters of the conversation. Okay. So it's like, no, we always want the conversation to be happening, and we want to be focusing on things that aren't, like, for example, if we find out that there are these illegal people or whatever, there's this problem with illegals coming into the country, and there's a kid that gets murdered in this area, and maybe other people have experience that same kind of crime. If we just bury that, well, then the person that experiences it down the street never gets validated in their own concern for the community. So it's like, I definitely think it's not the answer to not talk about it, although I mean I get it with like school shootings and stuff like that, because those people could be kind of like lionized as like martyrs to sick people,
right?
Like extremely sick
people,
fucking people. But it's like I could see how like somebody that has nothing going in their life, they're like, well, I'll get on CNN if I do this sick fucking thing.
Yeah.
So I guess I understand your concern for that, but you can't prevent that. If we're
I don't
gonna
think
have
you can
open
like
discourse.
legislate or like put rules in place to take that away. You
I
know
agree,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's.
No, you can't.
I think it's
losing so much in the trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. It's just like. It's one of those disgusting realities of.
It would take a CNN to not talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, hey, listen, this happened. We're choosing to not politicize this and have this be.
Yeah. That is an option.
But why would they?
But you are
in capitalistic society. Why would you?
But you are correct,
and that's.
But again, it is important. I get it. It is important.
To your point about why does the media do it? It's to make money.
And your point is totally correct. Where, like, for example, Fox News might cover something because it caters to their base and it's like what they want to hear, or CNN, or any of them. Like, apply the same thought to any of them. So there is that erosion of trust in those. I mean, in everything, in every kind of like power structure that we have in this country, it's gone. So either way, well, I mean, so that camera's about to die. So you go ahead and let me know. Is there anything you want to shout out before we get out of here? Paul B. Balcom, Balcom B. Paul.
Hey, I'm unhappy with Trump.
Yeah. This is a great conversation. Cody, thank you. You definitely could come through.
I appreciate it.
I got to really just be motivated to get this going more. But now we're actually in the process of considering moving from the house. So
Awesome.
this was like 24 hours ago. This looks fucking insane.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
this is good.
I really enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
I would love to do it whenever.
No, you're great, brother.
When
And I hope we're not up against the clock with battery next time either. I got to get a wall charger. But
no worries.
Either way, make sure you subscribe, Sit in Politic, everybody that tuned in today. Chris, thank you for hopping in the chat, brother. I know you said that you were going to have to get out. Kenny, thank you for hopping in the chat.
We never talked about Kanye, but that's okay. Sorry to mislead you in the headline.
No, but like you said, it's a good thing because like, why are we going to give more attention to Kanye shit? Fuck him and fuck his stupid.
It's gotten a lot of attention.
It's gotten a lot of attention.
Do you agree or disagree with him?
Oh man.
Do you agree, Heil Hitler?
Yeah, do you agree with that sentiment, Cody?
Should I do it?
Should I do
Should I
it?
Heil, bro?
Should I do it right now?
No,
Is now the time?
I'm gonna hit you with another, crazy point, but I think that's bad.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
I think that is in poor
earth-shattering.
taste.
The bravest man ever known.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm known for my bold position.
He's heroic.
Yeah.
No, the Heil Hitler.
Put me on a podium somewhere.
That's not right. I don't know, but but yeah, we'll probably get into that. I'm sure he'll continue. It's kind of to the point with Kanye.
Or he's gay too. I mean, he raped his cousin. So that was like a wild thing to.
All right, well, if we weren't taken down,
I said the R word. I said the R word.
We're gonna end on that.
Yeah, all right. He did what? All right,
Politics.
Politics.